our brand, our external brand is impacted the most by the people we pay the least. When I go to the grocery store, I don't even know who the CEO of Kroger is, right? I'm down in the Southeast.
Sure.
I don't know who the CEO is. My brand perception is going to come with my engagement with that person at the register, the person stocking the shelves, person at the customer service desk. That's my brand perception.
This is Eric Anderton, and you're listening to Construction Genius, a leadership masterclass. Thomas Edison said that genius is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration. If you're a construction leader, you know all about the perspiration, and this show is all about the 1% inspiration that you can add to your hard work to help you to improve your leadership. Branding is perhaps something that you don't spend a lot of time thinking about as a construction company owner or executive, but it is essential to the success of your organization. Your brand is your reputation, or what people say about you when you're not around. It's not just the logo or the website that you have. And what's very interesting is that it's important to have a strong internal brand with those that work for you, so that you might be able to have a strong external brand with those who work with you. And that is exactly what Skot Waldron and I are going to be talking about today on Construction Genius. Skot is an expert in brand building both internally and externally. He has many years of experience working with a variety of different companies, helping them to build their internal and external brand. And we're going to talk about the necessity of aligning those two aspects of your business in order to achieve the goals that you are driving for. Enjoy my conversation with Skot. Thank you for listening to Construction Genius. Feel free to share this interview with other people and give us a rating or review wherever you get your podcasts. Skot, welcome to Construction Genius. Thank you for joining me.
Yeah, it's good to be here, Eric. I'm excited. This is good stuff, man.
What does the term brand mean?
That is a beautiful question. Brand is your reputation, or what people say about you when you're not around. Straight up, that's all it is. Okay. And where do we see that? We see that in Google reviews, right? Nobody writes Google reviews on somebody's logo. Nobody's like, right, oh, that logo is horrible. Everybody talks about their experience with that company. Now, when I talk about brand as well, I talk about two separate things. So I talk about, that's the external side, the external brand, the Google reviews, the reputation, the word of mouth, the referrals that come out of that. But on the internal side, what we call internal brand development, we're talking about employee engagement. We're talking about company culture. We're talking about Glassdoor reviews, right? We're talking about, what do people say when they go home at night about their job? Are they saying, man, my team leader sucks? Or are they talking about, man, my job is a drag, I can't wait to get out of there? And then they're telling their neighbors at the barbecue about how bad their job sucks. That's an internal brand problem, right? So that's the way I kind of talk about brand. It's reputation. It's about what people say about you when you're not around. And we talk about it in the internal sense and the external sense as well.
Okay. So let's talk about the internal aspect of it. How can I develop a strong internal brand, and why is that important?
Because we've all experienced horrible internal brands, right? Our company culture, the way people bulldoze us in meetings. We don't feel valued, heard, or understood. We go home at night feeling like, it doesn't matter what I do. It doesn't matter what I say. I'm just going to do the bare minimum at my job to get by, get paid, and go home at night. Don't expect anything more from me because you don't give anything back, right? So an internal brand, and how do you develop that, is through strong alignment about who we are, what we represent, what our purpose is, what we believe, and then bridging into consistency in our interactions with each other. Am I treating you the same in this meeting on Monday as I am in our meeting on Friday? Am I treating you in HR the same as I'm treating somebody in marketing or sales or my executive? Am I consistent in my interactions, in my communication, in my development as a team to make sure that we are all cohesive and one vision of what we're trying to drive forward? And that is going to drive our external brand and help engagement with our clients and customers.
Okay, so it's interesting because often sort of a brand is something that people sort of tack on, but what you're arguing is that a strong external brand is driven by an internal reality that already exists.
Bingo, man. You got it. And it needs to start there because my career for the past 19 years has been in the marketing, graphic design, brand strategy, external brand strategy space. And here's what would happen. We would create a great strategy. We'd create beautiful design work. We'd create ways to get it out to the world. And what would happen is that 3 months later, the executive team would come back and say, yeah, we're not doing that anymore. And then everybody else is like, what? Like, I thought we agreed on this. Wait, what's going on? And they're like, no, John wants to do something different now. And they've wasted time, they've wasted money, they've wasted energy. And now there's disgruntled people inside the organization. So that's why I start with internal brand development. I start on the internal side. We have to be healthy on the inside before we can be healthy on the outside. It's just like with our bodies. We've got to be healthy on the internal side first so we can be better at the external side of what we do.
Okay, so let's talk about that. What is the first step to establishing that health or discovering that internal health?
Purpose, values, mission, vision.
Okay, break those down for me here. Which one do you want to start with?
I start with purpose every time. That purpose is the non-negotiable, the thing that drives us, the thing that gives us meaning of why we even exist. It's we believe this. Do you believe this too? We all want to do business with people that believe what we believe. We all want to belong to a company that believes what we believe. And if we can establish that, that's going to be the first step to creating loyalty inside our organization with employees and externally with our customers and clients. So that purpose may be somewhat generic in the sense that it's not going to pertain to my exact industry of demolition right now. That purpose may be good for a demolition company. That purpose may be the same for when I'm doing glass installation.
Sure.
The purpose is going to kind of be my underlying thing that drives me going forward.
So what about, when you're working with a company and you ask for their purpose and they're like, come on, man, our purpose is pretty straightforward. We just want to make some money. And we want to make good money and we want to kick some ass.
And I say, why, right? I ask the why question. I dig. People call me like a brand therapist, right? I come in, I dig and I dig and I dig. And sure, we all want to make money, okay? We're all in this world to make money, make an impact of some kind. Now, there are literally going to be people out there that just make a widget. They're like, listen, I make screws, for things, and that's kind of what I do. And what I want to do though is I'll dig a little bit and I'll dig and dig and dig. And there's a small percentage of companies that just don't need a full-on hardcore brand strategy, right? Now, you do need some of that internal alignment. You do need some of that internal brand development of communication, culture development and whatnot. But what I want to do is when we get into the philosophical, the meaning, the belief system of what we're trying to do and create, it's going to be really important to ask that why question over and over and over again.
Okay. So the next one then is the values. What do you mean by values?
So I don't want to hear when I go into a company and I start to do a brand audit in this company, I'm going to ask probably 10 different employees, at least, what are the values of your company? And I want to hear if they know them, right? And I'm going to want to also understand if they're consistent, if they align with those values. Does it represent, when we do an internal brand audit, do you believe these values represent the real company, right? We've just experienced COVID. We've just experienced the Black Lives Matter movement. And these things have revealed and uncovered a lot of BS out there when it comes to our values of companies. They've been called out of, our company doesn't really mean that when they say it. Right? People are getting tired of it and they want authenticity and transparency.
So you're going and you're doing one of these brand audits, and so you're asking 10 different people in the organization what the values are. How often do you consistently hear the same message when you're doing something like that?
Very, very rare. It's very seldom that I hear that consistent message. You'll hear some things trickle in here and there, and most of the problems come because people have like 10 values. I don't want you to have 10 values, right? Nobody can memorize 10 values. And then they all become generic too. People are just like, customer service is our value.
Right.
It's like, really? Like, is that really what's going to drive your whole value system going forward? It's like, I'm not going to call you out and say it's not, but I'm going to say there's something deeper there, but behind your customer service. Let's dig deeper of what that really means. That's what I want to get to.
How do the best companies then, if they're clear on their purpose and their values, how do the best companies then leverage those in terms of building their internal brands specifically?
Well, they'll use them, if they're smart, in their interview process to weed out the people that don't align with them at the very beginning. Maybe you're doing some initial interviews, you lay out a list of 20 values and you say, hey, pick your top 5. What would you say are your top 5 values? See if they somewhat align with what you're doing.
Right.
What is your purpose? Why do you exist? Why do you want to work at this place? Right.
Right.
Have them dig, right? Use this as a method and a way to find people that are aligned with you, that believe what you believe. That when that doesn't happen, turnover, right? And that costs a lot of money for a lot of companies. If we have constant turnover, we're talking about, with a 50-person company, it's $1 million a year problem right out of the gate.
So how do you distinguish, because you mentioned purpose, values, mission, and vision. How do you distinguish between purpose, mission, and vision?
Yeah, there's a lot of kind of like nomenclature, overlap, right? And a lot of people use them in different ways and have their own definitions.
Because people hear this, like people are listening to the interview and they're like, yeah, I've kind of heard this stuff before, I mean, give me something like that I can really grasp and say, you know what, I need that insight in my business.
Okay. So here's the thing. So we build from the top up. Okay. We build from your purpose. We build into your values. Your values are kind of that system that helps us align with what we are, that reemphasize our purpose. Okay. That value system. Mm-hmm. Our mission is the thing that we do every day. Okay. We can look, and this is what I tell my clients. I want you to be able to print out your mission statement, put it on your wall, and be able to look at it every day and say, did I do that today?
Okay.
Did I accomplish my mission? So my mission, for example, is to empower, inspire, and create every day.
Okay.
Inspire, empower, and create. Now, I can look at a list on my wall and I can say, did I do that today?
See, that's very good right there. See, I haven't heard it quite put like that. So your mission is something that you can write out and look at and then challenge yourself. Did I do that every day?
Every day. And your mission is the thing that if you do that every day, it's going to keep getting you a step closer to your vision, a step closer to that vision. A vision is that North Star that we may not ever reach. Okay. Southwest's vision, Southwest Airlines, to be the most loved, most flown, and most profitable airline. That is their vision statement. Are they ever going to be the most loved, most flown, and most profitable airline? Probably not. Okay. Their vision isn't necessarily meant to be reached. It's meant to drive change and to establish something within their company that says, yes, this is bigger than us. Yes, this is going to help us accomplish everything we do every day. So your vision, North Star, it's your guiding light. It's that thing that keeps us in our lane. Mission helps us accomplish that vision by saying, I did this, I did this, I did this. Your values and your purpose are there to reestablish our belief system and why we're even trying to accomplish that mission and vision every day. So they kind of cascade and build on one another.
So as you look at those, in your experience working with companies, which of those 4 is most important to the establishing of an internal brand and then that leading to a stronger external brand?
The vision is where I would go. It takes all those bottom parts, I think, to get to that vision of what we're trying to accomplish. But I think ultimately the vision is going to be what we need to establish everything we do going forward. We may start out with one product and service, okay, that aligns with our vision. But then maybe 10 years later, or 5 years later, we come up with a new product, a new service, something new that because of COVID or whatever happens that we need to rethink, re-strategize what we're doing. Now, I can look at my vision statement and say, does that still align with my vision? Does that still align? So if Southwest goes into some other vertical,
right,
can they sit there and say, is this still going to help us be the most loved, most profitable, and most flown airline, right? I don't care what the product or service is. Does it align with that vision? That's why the vision is so important. Because if I have collaborative agreement and alignment about what my vision is, then I know that everything that comes out of my company is going to help us get to that point.
So how should an executive team get together and try and establish that vision? What are some steps that they could take, some practical ones?
Well, number one, the first thing I would not do, first of all, is get the CEO, the CFO, and the COO in a room, just the three of them, and come up with a vision statement. Like, no. Okay. Because that becomes the vision statement of those three executives.
Okay.
What we also don't want is a room full of 100 people that we all want to make feel included and say, hey, what do you guys think our vision statement should be? And then come together. We need to be strategic about assembling a team from various departments at various levels to understand who we are as a company, what we want to be as a company, and where we're going, and does it still reflect? Now, when we do a rebrand, that vision may be tweaked based on our new products and services and what we're trying to establish, and maybe our new leadership and who. Like, I don't think you need to change your vision every year. I think it's something that needs to be evaluated. And I think it's something that needs to be looked at and understood by the entire organization. And this is something that I do with companies when I go to internal brand analysis, is I measure companies on 5 things: communication, relationships, alignment, execution, and capacity. And I grade them. I use a tool called Giant. We actually quantify those numbers. And if I see a low alignment score that's affecting your overall company culture score, then I'll actually say, okay, what's the alignment issue? Most of the time, it's we don't know what our vision is. We don't know what our mission is. We don't understand our values. We don't know where to locate them, even if we did know what they were, right? Like that's an alignment issue.
What are those 5 things again? Just go slowly through those 5.
Okay. Number 1 is communication. It starts with communication. It's the foundation of every company culture.
Sure.
Relationships.
Right.
Then we get into alignment, execution, and capacity. Now, most companies, they just focus on number 3 and 4, alignment and execution. They sit there and say, everybody, let's just get on the same page, right, and get it done. Right. Execute. Get on the same page and get it done. Everybody, if we could just get on the same page, get it done. And then they leave. And then what you have at that point is you have this baseline execution. You have compliance. You don't have engagement. Okay. Because if you're just preaching, get on the same page and get it done without establishing communication and relationships, which is the trust building part, then all I'm going to say is, okay, man, I'm just going to, you know what, guys, whatever, it doesn't matter what we think. Let's just get on the same page. Let's just agree with them because they think they know everything. And then we can just supposedly just get it done to the bare minimum. And that's the problem with internal brand structures, is that we don't put a lot of emphasis on the communication relationships part. We just want the execution. And that's, I get it, but you got to put the emphasis on building the trust first.
What do you mean by capacity? What does that mean?
Capacity is where we get into the realm of using the resources we have. Okay. So let's take COVID, for example. I've done a lot of coaching and also webinars on increasing capacity when times are tough. Okay. Right. COVID, we had hardcore layoffs, right? Big time layoffs in this country, all over the world, I would imagine. Yep. And people having to do more with less, or do the same with less. We'll just say do the same. Right. They had to understand how to use their time better. They had to understand how to use their people better. They had to understand how to use maybe their physical resources better. And all of that, if we can have better communication, if we can build better relationships, increase our alignment and our execution, then capacity is just going to follow. We're going to increase our capacity if we have all those other things. So I say this to people. I say, listen, you've got 10 people on your team. Would you rather have those 10 people working at 60%, which is the stats that we know based on our experience working in 116 countries, that companies generally work at 58% of their capacity.
Right.
Okay. Based on engagement levels and other things, right? Would you rather have 10 people working at 58%, or would you rather have 10 people working at 90%?
Right.
And they go, duh, like 90%.
Sure.
And I said, okay, so what are you doing to establish that? Because it's possible, but right now you're working at 58%. And that's because you haven't established the communication and the relationships and the alignment good enough to get to the execution and capacity part.
So let me ask you this. Let's say I know that my internal brand is broken. That is, I'm struggling with communication, relationships, alignment, and therefore the execution is lacking. What do I need to do to begin to turn that ship around? And how long should I be expecting this to take?
First of all, you need to be self-aware. So you understand that maybe there's a problem. You don't know what the problem is, but you know there's something because we're not functioning well. Maybe there's high turnover. Maybe there's gossip in organization. Maybe there's backbiting. Maybe there's a whole level of self-preservation where nobody's working as a team. We're all working in silos because we're all scared to death of something. Okay.
Right.
So we see symptoms, just like when we're ill, we see symptoms of a problem. Okay. What we need to do is diagnose ultimately what that is. What is the problem? And that's what this tool that I use actually goes in and does. Everybody can get a free account and use this for themselves. It's at giant.tv/30 days. You can put that URL in the show notes, I'm sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But yeah, giant.tv/30 days. People can go on and you can actually go in, log in, take a personality assessment, understand your team dynamics, and take this invincibility assessment that will grade your team on these 5 things for free. Okay. Once you diagnose the problem, then you can sit there and say, like I did earlier, I have an alignment issue. Why do I have an alignment issue? I'm going to look at the data and say, oh, we all scored like a 36 on alignment. Oh, we scored a 24 on our vision. Then we can start to say, okay, now we can use tools and coaching and education to focus on that thing, right? No longer is it, we're going to bring in a consultant for a day that's going to teach us about some personality assessment. And then we're going to get this document and put it in our drawer and never think about it ever again.
Right.
That's done. It doesn't work. So when we talk about how long is it going to take to change? I say, give me 90 days to show you a quantifiable score increase to help your company. So give me 1 quarter and I will show you an uptick in some kind of quantifiable number that will actually show that things are getting better. Okay. You're not going to see a huge jump in that 90 days, but you'll see something.
If I'm looking to develop my internal brand, what are some immediate next steps that I should be taking in order to get that alignment and all the things that we've discussed here so far?
Number one is I would do an internal brand audit, somewhat survey, right? If of course you can use the Giant platform, right? It's free. You can do that analysis, that invincibility survey for 30 days for free. Get as many people on your team to take that, see where the gaps are, right? Don't BS it, be honest, and see where the gaps are in your data.
Right.
That's number one. You could use that tool and use that. If you didn't want to use that tool, another thing that I do is I send out internal surveys. Okay. I'll do quantitative surveys, which are more just click this radio button or click this drop-down menu or which one serves you the best or how would you rate this? You can get those quantifier or do qualitative surveys where you're actually getting feedback and do some qualitative interviews with different levels of different people at the company and hear what's going on, understand what's going on, see where the biggest problems are and look for those consistencies and answers. Look for those things that, man, we've heard like 10 people say that. Maybe that's something we need to think about, you know? So it's all about doing the audit first,
right?
Being aware of your problems.
When you do a survey of some kind, you get inundated with a bunch of information. In your experience, what is the best way for a company to identify their priorities?
I think they need to be, like I said, looking at the data. I'm a big believer in the data. I can make all the assumptions I want, but they're just my assumptions. And they could be even really good assumptions based on working in 116 different countries, right? But it's still going to be you. It's still going to be your data. So I think you need to go to that well first and understand your priorities there. Coming back as an executive team, looking at the data and saying, okay, we can't prioritize all this stuff right now. Where do we think is the biggest gap? And where do we think we're going to have the biggest impact? Okay. what is going to drive our business forward? What is going to help us retain our employees? What is going to help us have a better brand perception inside so that we can have a better brand perception outside as well?
Which ultimately is more important, your internal brand or your external brand?
Ooh, that's a toughie. I am going to lean towards the internal brand. Now, we will say, and we will hear from a lot of different companies, I don't care about the internal stuff. I don't care about the fluffy vision. I don't care about the fluffy values. You know what? We buy lunch for our employees every other Friday.
Yeah.
And I'm like, cool. So have you ever heard of Disney?
Right.
Have you heard of Chick-fil-A? Have you heard of Zappos? Have you heard of those companies that build such internal strong cultures that when you interact with their lowest paid employee, that Disney employee that's standing outside in the hot sun all summer long, they're the happiest person in the world. They make that experience for my kid amazing. When I go to Chick-fil-A, they're always refilling my lemonade, you know, because they're smiling and they're enjoying. That doesn't come just because they love serving chicken sandwiches and they love standing in the hot sun. That comes because of an internal culture that is built and established and trained into that employee. And they find employees that believe what they believe. That's going to translate to dollars, and that's going to translate to loyalty on the external side. Because you know what? Our brand, our external brand, is impacted the most by the people we pay the least. When I go to the grocery store, I don't even know who the CEO of Kroger is, right? I'm down in the Southeast.
Sure.
I know who the CEO is. My brand perception is going to come with my engagement with that person at the register, the person stocking the shelves, person at the customer service desk. That's my brand perception.
So that's really interesting. So the guys out on the job site, people that, you know, they see your sign out on the job site and they see the guys on the work site. That's how they're going to perceive your brand on a regular basis if you're a construction company.
You got it. Think about it. Your guys come in, they take breaks every 30 minutes, and then they're also late getting to the site, and they're also not talking cohesively. Maybe they're using a lot of language. Maybe they're using a lot of things that aren't jiving with that particular client.
Sure.
All of a sudden, that client's brand perception of it has nothing to do with the logo, right? It has nothing to do with the president of that company necessarily.
Yep.
It has to do with these guys. I don't know. I'm not going to recommend these guys because of these employees.
So it's interesting. We began the conversation with your brand being your reputation or what people say about you when you're not around. And we went into this discussion about the key to developing a strong external brand is establishing that internal brand that then enables you to be able to have alignment internally and communication internally that's then expressed in the way you interact with people externally. Your brand, regardless of whether it's strong or weak, is driven by what's happening internally in the organization. That's the key insight, I think.
Key insight. You got it, man. I mean, how are we going to run a race if, we don't have a good heart? And how are we going to run a race if we have a ton of fat clogging our arteries, right? It's the same concept, man. We've got to take care of ourselves, our internal processes, our internal selves and our health to make sure that we can execute effectively on the outside.
Excellent. Well, Skot, I really appreciate your insights here. As we're wrapping up, you're down there in Georgia. Where in Georgia?
I'm northeast of Atlanta.
Excellent.
Yeah, man, it's beautiful. We love it.
So if we're visiting Atlanta or the area that you're in, what's one restaurant that you would recommend someone to go to?
Oh man, Waffle House. Hello. People are gonna hate me for saying that. Yeah, you gotta hit it up at some point in time. So just having that experience is in and of itself part of the whole deal. So
excellent.
I'll just throw that out as kind of a low-hanging fruit.
Beautiful. Waffle House. We'll go with that one. And so if you're in the Southeast, I don't think maybe it's on the West Coast. I'm not sure yet, but I know it's
I'd have to look at that.
Yeah, it's kind of big down there. That's awesome. You guys don't have In-N-Out over there in Georgia yet, do you?
We don't, man. But all I've got a lot of contacts in Utah, and they're always like In-N-Out, In-N-Out, and you gotta have the secret phrases to get your special In-N-Out burger.
Yeah, the animal style. Right on, Scott. Well, I really appreciate your time. Your insights here with branding have been very helpful.
Yeah, buddy. Thank you. I appreciate it, Eric.
Thanks a lot. Thank you for listening to this episode of Construction Genius. Hope you found that 1% of inspiration to help you in the next few days. If you like the show, please give us a 5-star review on iTunes. Share it with other construction leaders who you think would benefit. And always remember that the show is brought to you by Kick-Ass Meetings. I've been working with construction leaders since 2004, teaching them how to run extremely effective problem-solving meetings that gets their people collaborating, taps into their creativity. And to get yourself a free copy of the Kick-Ass Meeting Report, go to www.ericanderton.com/kickassmeetings. Grab yourself that free report, read it, use it in your business. You'll find it extremely useful. And thanks again for listening.